Hey, folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to a special weekend edition of the Watchman Newscast live stream. We're coming to you because, look, over the past 24 hours, some major moves in the Middle East by the United States. Number one, eliminating last night a top ISIS leader in Iraq. And number two, very big today. And, folks, we knew this was coming. Massive airstrikes ordered by President Trump against those Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen. Again, this was a long time coming. If you look back the past 4 years plus, quick rewind, Joe Biden, January 2021, gets in office, immediately removes the Houthis from the U.S. terror list. Insane. All it did, he tried to charm Iran by doing that. He's throwing a bone to the Iranians. And all it did was embolden Iran and the Houthis. And of course, especially since the October 7th massacre, the Houthis have been on a rampage, right? Not only attacking Israel with rockets and drones, but also in terms of U.S. interests and Western interests, attacking shipping, seizing shipping in the Red Sea, that one of the most strategic waterways in the world. So continuously harassing American shipping. And Biden allowed this. Look, I mean, the UK and the US formed this alliance to strike the Houthis, but it was basically ineffectual, to say the least. It did not deter the Houthis because at the end of the day, they didn't go for the jugular, so to speak. It was defensive actions by the US and the UK in the Red Sea. And they said as much. Pentagon spokesman, White House spokespeople would say, look, we're not going to go on the offensive against the Houthis. We're just defending our shipping. It's purely defensive. Well, not a good strategy, needless to say. The Houthis and their Iranian masters figured that out very quickly. So they only upped the attacks because they knew, look, the response would be measured, in Biden's words, limited. Instead of, again, going to the source, and really, I said throughout, they should eliminate Houthi leaders, cut the head off the snake. I mean, the ultimate head of the snake resides in Tehran, which we'll talk about in a minute. But when it comes to the Houthis, go for the leadership, just as Israel has done with Hezbollah and Hamas. Go for the leadership. And look, I think Israel was on its way and may still be on its way to doing that with the Houthis. The Israel accomplished with 2 or 3 major airstrikes since July 2024 against the Houthis. Israel accomplished what the United States under Biden couldn't do in over a year, deterring the Houthis and weakening them and sending a message not only to the Houthis, but to the entire region. Which brings us to today. President Trump, we've heard rumblings over the past few weeks. And look, as soon as he got into office in January, I said, the Houthis are not long for this world. They keep breathing threats, not only against the United States, but against Israel. In recent days, they said if Israel doesn't stop hostilities against Hamas and Gaza, then they were going to resume their attacks against Israel. So the timing of this strike today by the U.S. is very interesting. Israel, from what we know, was not involved in the strike today. But it was time to send a message. Enough is enough. And in terms of the Houthis, I mean, they've been hit and hit again, hard by Israel, as I just explained. Yet, you know what we say here. Evil is arrogant. Evil is quite foolish. And evil, because it's demonically driven, evil is relentless. And the Houthis check all of those sinister boxes. But here we have today. President Trump ordering these strikes. They occurred Saturday evening, Yemen time. I'm here in Texas right now in the United States. But here's some of the information from the Jerusalem Post. Again, breaking news here, folks. The United States struck Houthi targets in Yemen on Saturday evening in a message to Iran at a time when the Trump administration has been proposing to open negotiations on Iran's nuclear program. Again, more on that in a minute. At least 9 people were killed and 9 injured in the strikes, a spokesman for the Houthi-run health ministry said on X. The air and naval strikes by the United States hit the Houthis' radars, air defenses, and missile and drone systems. Did they strike Houthi leaders, Houthi operatives as well? We're not sure yet, as again, this just happened as I'm coming to you around 4:30 p.m. Central Time here in the United States. So the dust is still clearing over there in Yemen. U.S. President Donald Trump wrote on his Truth Social account following the strikes, bear with me, it's about a paragraph long, a bit of a long statement, but It sums things up and it gives you an idea where things are going when it comes to peace through strength and having leverage and not being afraid to use it. Imagine that. Trump wrote, quote, "Today I have ordered the United States military to launch decisive and powerful military action against the Houthi terrorists in Yemen. They have waged an unrelenting campaign of piracy, violence, and terrorism against American and other ships, aircraft, and drones." Funded by Iran, Trump said, the Houthi thugs have fired missiles at U.S. aircraft and targeted our troops and allies. These relentless assaults have cost the U.S. and world economy many billions of dollars, while at the same time putting innocent lives at risk. The Houthi attack on American vessels will not be tolerated. We will use overwhelming lethal force until we have achieved our objective. Again, this is President Trump. The Houthis have choked off shipping in one of the most important waterways of the world, grinding vast swaths of global commerce to a halt and attacking the core principle of freedom of navigation upon which international trade and commerce depends. Here's the final part, he bashed Biden a bit, rightfully so, said Biden did nothing about this. Then he said, lastly, and this was the message to Iran, "To all Houthi terrorists, your time is up and your attacks must stop starting today. If they don't, hell will rain down upon you like nothing you have ever seen before." To Iran, Trump said, "Support for the Houthi terrorists must end immediately. Do not threaten the American people, their president, who has received one of the largest mandates in presidential history, or worldwide shipping lanes. If you do, beware, because America will hold you fully accountable and we won't be nice about it." Vintage Donald Trump there on his Truth Social account. Okay, a few things to unpack. Number one, I don't think this will be the last of the strikes against the Houthis. Number two, here was the Houthi response, and I quote, "The Houthis, the deputy head of the Houthi media office, said the airstrikes will not deter the Yemeni rebel group and they will retaliate against the U.S. Sana'a, that's the capital of Yemen, will remain Gaza's shield and support it and will not abandon it no matter the challenges." Okay, well, we'll see about that. We'll see in what manner the Houthis retaliate. I would guess shipping again in the Red Sea, but there's a new sheriff in town, folks. And again, I called this in January. I said the Houthis are in for a very rude awakening, and this will not be the last of the U.S. strikes. We may see more Israeli strikes as well. We may see the U.S. and Israel acting in tandem against the Houthis. The Houthis, in a sense, when we look at that Iranian ring of fire, they're sort of the last man standing, right? Because Israel has smashed Hezbollah. Israel has smashed Hamas. Assad has collapsed. He's gone from Syria. The militias in Iraq and Syria have been a bit more quiet, those Iranian-backed militias, because they've seen what Israel has done to their compadres. And then you've got Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, where Iran is also making inroads. Israel's been striking hard there. So again, the Houthis were kind of the last man standing in terms of actively and aggressively striking. I mean, continuing. There have been lulls and long pauses between them getting shellacked by Israel, but they eventually keep starting up again. And folks, again, I said evil is relentless, right? I mean, of course it is, because it's demonic, number one. But number two, a group like the Houthis, a group like Hamas or Hezbollah, this is their sole rationale for existence. If they lay down their arms, lay down their guns, they stop the jihad, then who are they? They're not the Houthis. They're not Hamas. It's not Hezbollah. They exist to maim, murder, and wage jihad. That's their whole reason for existence, to destroy Israel, to attack the West, and to really bring the world to heel under an Islamic theocratic dictatorship. That's the end game. That's their goal. So if they're not able to drive for that and launch attacks, then why do they even exist? And that's why you'll see the relentless continuance of attacks. Because if you're like me, you're saying, are these people nuts? Answer is yes. They're not stupid, though. They're ideological fanatics who truly believe this ideology, this radical Islamist eschatology and ideology. They believe they are the tip of the spear of it. So they're true believers, no doubt. But you might say, man, they've had their tails kicked and they're still launching attacks. Are they nuts? Do they want to die? Apparently they do, because there's no other reason for them to live if they're not waging jihad. So it's a catch-22. That's the conundrum they find themselves in. If they just stay quiet, they don't do anything, then who are they? They exist to kill and to maim and to engage in conquest. That's who they are. So I don't think you'll see the end, or we've seen the end of U.S. strikes against the Houthis, because I predict the Houthis will start things up again. They'll attack Israel, at least try to, God forbid. Same with U.S. shipping. But I think their shelf life is not very long. Let's say that. If Joe Biden was in office, I wouldn't have said that so readily, although Israel was really, I think, getting ready to ramp up activities against the Houthis. Even though, listen, Yemen is 1,000 miles south of Israel. I mean, it's not easy to go down and strike the Houthis, but I think when Israel did carry out airstrikes against the Houthis, Israel also sent a message to Iran. Because if and when Israel has to strike those Iranian nuclear facilities, look, it's going to have to travel a long distance, right? Over 1,000 miles to get to Iran. So dry run, practice runs in a sense when you're striking the Houthis in Yemen, which again is 1,000 miles away. In terms of Iran and Iran's role in this, clearly, repeated messages delivered to the Iranian regime. But again, same deal. They're not going to lay down their arms. They're not going to stop their nuclear program. They're not going to do it because, again, then who are they? They have no identity. Their identity are radical, theocratic, apocalyptic jihadists who want to dominate the region, destroy Israel, and dominate the world, including destroying the country they know as the Great Satan, the United States. Israel, remember, only the little Satan in their ideology, in their words. So they're not going to abandon their nuclear program. And if they do that, then it leaves them exposed. I think they're, again, in a no-win situation. They've painted themselves in a corner in that if Israel, with or without help from the United States, I think in the very least they would have an enthusiastic green light from President Trump if they strike Iran's nuclear facilities this year. And remember, we've said this is the year of reckoning for that nuclear program. If they do it, there's a good chance the Iranian people rise up and try to overthrow this regime once again. But if Iran were to give up its nuclear program unilaterally and say, okay, America, we'll come to the table. We'll come to a deal here. We don't want you to attack us. We want to preserve the regime. And we know if we continue to develop nuclear weapons, you're going to hit us. You're going to destroy the weapons facilities, and that would endanger the existence of the regime. Meaning, if the nuclear facilities are destroyed, the people may rise up, see it as a golden opportunity. But if they're not destroyed, and the Iranian regime shows weakness in capitulating to U.S. demands and gives up the program unilaterally, then the Iranian people may also see the regime as vulnerable and weakened and rise up. So I think either way here, the shelf life for Iran's regime is also not very long. Listen, their ring of fire has collapsed, as I described a few minutes ago, and the Houthis right now are feeling the heat. Their air defenses were destroyed in an Israeli counterattack back in October. So they have no air defenses right now, virtually. No ring of fire to lean on, no proxies to lean on for the most part. They are exposed, and Israel and the United States have a clear path to those nuclear facilities if they want to take it. And folks, I think, look, it's a golden opportunity that Israel in particular cannot squander. I've said again, 2025 is the year of reckoning for that nuclear program. We'll know by the time the year's out. I'm not saying action will come this year, although I believe it should. This window may pass. But I think we'll know by the time the year's out, one way or the other, which way this is going. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Either going to wake up one day, you're going to turn on the Watchman live stream here on YouTube, and you're going to find out that Iran just tested successfully a nuclear device. They are now a nuclear power. They have followed the North Korea model, and they now have the ultimate deterrent. Or you're going to flip me on, and I'm going to be saying, hey, Israeli fighter jets are in the skies right now striking the nuclear facilities. And when it comes to U.S. assistance and support, remember, I think the green light is a no-brainer from President Trump, but Israel will need perhaps mid-air refueling assistance, perhaps some larger bunker busting bombs from the United States. And I think all that is in play and on the table. Trump right now, and I mentioned negotiations with Iran. I think it's fruitless. God bless President Trump. I know what he's doing here. Look, he's the deal maker. And he's saying, I just came into office. My goal is to end wars, not start them, not prolong them. And I'll give Iran one last chance. One last chance. I'll give diplomacy one last shot. I'm tightening the noose around their necks. I'm enforcing this economic pressure campaign, sanctions out the yin yang. And if even relentless economic pressure, which Trump also did in his first term quite successfully, and then Joe Biden came to office, and that was that. Appeasement started back up. But if even this economic pressure campaign does not convince the Ayatollahs to abandon their nuclear program, Trump says, okay, then we're going to hit you. Or we're going to just let Israel hit you, and we're going to help Israel do it. So that's the situation. And Trump said in that Truth Social, that long Truth Social post today, he mentioned targeting the president, him. Remember here, Donald Trump has a long memory. And as we reported here in the live stream, Iran tried to assassinate Donald Trump. They wanted to kill Donald Trump. They tried it again and again. There were plots against his life before he came into office. Why? Came into office a second time, I should say. Why? Precisely for this reason. They fear the man because he's a man of action. And he does what he says. Promises kept. He means what he says. It was easy street with Joe Biden, or for God's sake, Kamala Harris. Iran would have done what it wanted. And you would have most certainly seen a nuclear Iran, except for Israel. Harris and Biden were prepared to look the other way. It was lip service. What was Joe Biden's message? Whether to Iran, whether to Hamas, whether to Russia. Mr. President, what's your message? What do you want to tell them? They're talking about invading, etc. What's your message? Joe Biden would stare blankly at the cameras and say, don't. And they did. They ignored him completely. So big difference between that and Donald Trump. And Iran knows it, and they're in a very bad way right now, and I can't say I feel sorry for them. Speaking of promises kept by President Trump, ISIS. He promised to destroy that ISIS caliphate during his first term. He did exactly that, but there are still remnants of ISIS, strong, considerable remnants in Iraq and Syria, especially in Syria. But let's zero in real quick on that strike last night, which was big. Again, 24 hours. And by the way, little teaser for you here, my good friend, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, he is the White House Director of Counterterrorism, a senior advisor of President Trump. I'll be interviewing him from the White House on Tuesday, March 18th. Wow. It will air on Stakelbeck tonight. Now, if you like the YouTube channel, you will love our nightly show every weeknight, Monday through Friday on TBN, the world's largest Christian television network, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time with a re-air at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time every night. Watch us Tuesday, March 18th. Sebastian Gorka, a man intimately involved in these strikes, the White House Counterterrorism Director. He will be joining me. Mark your calendars for that. And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel here, of course. Click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. This is current events, breaking news from an unapologetically biblical perspective for such a time as this. And when we talk biblical, here's a teaser for you. I'd love to get your thoughts here too, my watchmen and women on the wall. We got a very active chat right now, of course. Iran, in terms of Iran's leadership, the regime, does this regime need to be in power during the war of Ezekiel, the war of Gog and Magog is laid out in Ezekiel 38 and 39? Because ancient Persia is clearly in that latter days invasion force which comes against Israel that Ezekiel lays out. Is it this particular regime? Because I said, look, you know, they're in jeopardy, this regime. But these diabolical wretches have been able to weather storm after storm and uprising after uprising. So I'm just curious on your thoughts on that. Could it be another regime leading Iran into that latter days confrontation, which doesn't end very well for them? Teaser. Go and read Ezekiel 38 and 39. But real quick, this ISIS leader, just some details on him. Trump, I love it. Trump on Truth Social said, peace through strength, and his miserable life was terminated. Couldn't say it better myself. The leader of ISIS in Iraq and Syria was killed. Abdullah Maki Mosleh al-Rifai, I think that's Irish, right? Just kidding. Happy St. Patty's Day, by the way, in advance. Or Abu Khadija was killed in an operation by members of the Iraqi National Intelligence Service, along with U.S.-led coalition forces. He was one of the most dangerous terrorists in Iraq and the world. Trump said, again, his miserable life was terminated, and he was relentlessly hunted down by our intrepid war fighters. Along with another member of ISIS, he was killed, and the Iraqi government and the Kurdish regional government helped. And again, he was the emir of ISIS, the most senior decision-making body of that vicious terror organization. He was involved in logistics, operations, planning for ISIS globally. And he was based in Iraq. Again, another one bites the dust. Another demonic orc for ISIS is gone. So a big 24 hours here, ladies and gentlemen, in the counterterrorism realm. Two sides of the coin, right? ISIS, the Sunni jihadis feeling the heat, and then the Shia side of the coin, Houthis, Iran, that axis. So differing, obviously, the two factions, Sunni, Shia, there's differences, but their end game is the same. And it's domination. I mean, radical jihadist domination, but I don't think that's going to be happening on Donald Trump's watch or on Benjamin Netanyahu's watch, thank God, or on the watch of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He neither slumbers nor sleeps. He looks at all this according to Psalm 2. He looks at these enemies gathering, these evil forces, and he quite literally laughs. So be encouraged on this Saturday. Take heart. Thanks for joining us. If anything breaks tomorrow, we'll come to you as well. But until next time, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.